But I would also suggest to you to keep in mind the ecosystem in which this exercise of assisting and bringing back the stranded Indians is taking place. And the ecosystem comprises of, as I said, highly volatile conflict zone situation in Sudan, pretty much very hard to access areas outside the Khartoum city, and I will talk about that as we go along. Our estimate is that approximately there are 3,500 Indian nationals and about 1,000 odd PIOs in Sudan. As I said, these numbers are approximate numbers, and it is our effort to put as much specificity to those numbers as we can as we go along. And some of these numbers keep fluctuating depending, or rather keep getting added depending upon who reaches out to the embassy, considering that they are all scattered, not just all over Khartoum city, but also in many parts of Sudan. The pockets of concentration are in Khartoum city and its suburbs. There are also pockets in Omdurman, Al-Fashar, Kassala, Port Sudan, etc., where many of the Indian nationals are located. What we did was that as soon as the fighting broke out in Khartoum, our embassy in Khartoum immediately alerted and reached out to as many members of the Indian community as they could. As it turns out, they pretty much reached out to almost all of them by and large. 2, issued immediate advisories both in Khartoum city as well as in Delhi. 3, created a network of communication within Sudan despite the challenges of the network availability, power availability to charge your network, charge your devices. Created a system, a group of network of communications through which they could, pass on the information about the ongoing conflict situation to the members of the community. 2, advise them suitably not to take avoidable risks. 3, also keep them informed about the efforts of Government of India underway as part of Operation Kaveri to assist them and bring them out of the areas where they were stranded. They also, embassy also initiated a online registration process, which naturally had its challenges because, as I said, the network availability and the power outages combined together create a situation that online networks sometimes don't run fully well. So far, it is our estimate that roughly 3,400 Indian nationals have either registered online or they are in touch with the embassy. More specifically, I think 3,000 odd have already registered online, 3,100, and roughly an additional 300 are in touch with the mission. Embassy's principal thrust and Government of India's focus in this entire effort has been to advise and assist the stranded Indian nationals, advise them to remain safe and help them move to secure locations whenever feasible, whether in the middle of the night or during the day, of course after carefully evaluating the conflict situation on the ground. Furthermore, as soon as the conflict broke out, the Ministry of External Affairs set up a 24/7 control room up on the 3rd floor of this building. That control room continues to run 24/7 and will continue to do so till we have overcome the current situation and resolved it fully. As part of our efforts, the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar, also reached out to foreign ministers of other key partners whose nationals were also stuck in Sudan. These included foreign ministers of the US, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and last night Shankar also had a conversation with the UK foreign ministers. This is over and above his meetings with the UN Secretary General in New York on April 20th, focused exclusively on the situation in Sudan with a view to making an assessment that would help Government of India efforts to bring back the stranded Indians there. You would have seen reports, of course, that the Honorable Prime Minister last Friday chaired a high-powered meeting in which he personally reviewed and directed the officials of Government of India to take suitable measures, all suitable measures, to assist and bring back these stranded Indians. As part of our efforts, two C-130 aircraft of Indian Air Force have been mobilized and are constantly positioned in Jeddah, have been there since 19th of April. We also set up a control room in Jeddah and a control room in Port Sudan. So we have two control rooms working along with our embassy. So there's a full triangulation of efforts between control room in Jeddah through our consulate and mission in Riyadh, through the control room team in Port Sudan, which is the northeastern coast of Sudan, and our embassy in Khartoum city. And of course, each of these three hubs are coordinating their efforts and direction to bring back the stranded Indians with the headquarters in Delhi. Two naval ships have also been positioned as part of Government of India efforts. INS Sumedha was the first one to dock, picked up roughly 300 odd Indians yesterday, brought them to Port Jeddah, and is today back in Port Sudan to fetch the next group of Indians and bring them to safe harbors. Yesterday, the other ship, INS Teg, also docked at Port Sudan, bringing, of course, our control rooms, control room team, and additional resources which were required for this purposes of bringing back the stranded Indians. I'm informed that third ship, INS Tarkash, has also reached Port Sudan today as part of our efforts. Now, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks, the conflict zone surrounded around the city of Khartoum. So when we started issuing advisories and started looking at the pathways to exit from the conflict zone into the safe areas, we had to pursue a land corridor of roughly 850 kilometers from Khartoum to Port Sudan. So just to orient you in terms of the scale, besides the number itself, just the sheer scale of Operation Kaveri. So if Khartoum city is the middle, 850 northeast of that is the Port Sudan, which is where, as I said, it's an area of relative safety with the ability for not only ships to dock, but also the availability of airstrip for the C-130 aircraft or other aircraft to land there. Approximate journey time, depending upon whether you are traveling in the day or through the night, can easily be between 12 to 18 hours. And add to that, there is another complexity of the availability of diesel fuel for buses. I know it sounds very trivial to talk about diesel availability and bus availability, but on the ground, these are real logistical challenges which, as part of our relentless and ongoing efforts, were addressed, resolved, and we were successfully able to bring out a large number of Indians, and numbers I can talk to you later on about it. Our mission in Khartoum worked through and through, day and night, and managed to arrange buses at different locations in the Khartoum city to mobilize people, including from the particularly conflict areas in central Khartoum, in the two districts, Amata district and Khartoum 1 and 2. When the first convoy left Khartoum city for Port Sudan, 2 of our embassy officials accompanied that convoy in order to ensure that there were no problems on the way, and if there were, then at least they were handled and resolved. Mission also made arrangements along with the members of the community in Port Sudan, arrangements for stay and food for the stranded Indians at one of the facilities. And most importantly, when they reached Port Sudan, full arrangements were in place to provide them with necessary documentation, mainly because being the conflict zone, all of them being in conflict zone, many of them were not in a position to carry their documentation with them. So to facilitate their documentation was a critical necessity before they could be evacuated out from there. As we speak, we have a situation that roughly in total 600 odd people, Indian nationals, have either arrived in India or are on their way. So 360 of them arrived by a charter Saudi Arabia flight yesterday night. Another 246 are being flown to Maharashtra state in a commissioned C-17 flight. We currently have approximately, give some leeway on the numbers, approximately 495 Indian nationals who are in Jeddah as of now that we speak. These numbers will either go up or come down depending upon the flows in from Port Sudan and depending upon the evacuation from Jeddah to India. Also, as we speak, there are 320 Indian nationals who are in Port Sudan currently stationed. We have more number of buses moving from Khartoum city to Port Sudan. And as I said, INS Sumeda, our ship is already there. INS Tarkash is about to dock there. We have 2 C-130J aircraft standing in Jeddah for more sorties later during the day. So if you look at the network bridgehead line, is from Khartoum to Port Sudan to Jeddah, Jeddah to India. And we are trying to secure each point in this entire network of movement. Khartoum city through our embassy and community, Port Sudan through embassy, through the team which flew in from Jeddah to establish control room, in Jeddah through our consulate and mission in Riyadh, and of course at headquarters in close coordination with the resident commissioners of different state governments who are here. Just to share some specifics with you, on 25th April, INS Sumeda brought 278 Indian nationals. It's the same INS Sumeda which has gone back and redocked today. And 2 sorties of C-130 brought in 121 and 135 passengers respectively. Yesterday on 26th April, another batch of 297 Indians have sailed out on INS Teg, and 2 more sorties of C-130 to evacuate another batch of 264 Indians. We have also made arrangements for the transit accommodation in Jeddah, and as you would have seen from the media reports coming in, Honorable MOS V. Muralidharanji is in Jeddah to receive the stranded Indians who are coming in from Sudan into Jeddah, and then onwards from Jeddah to India. As I mentioned, we as a ministry are also in close touch and coordinating with the resident commissioners of different state governments in Delhi to ensure that their onward movement of the Indians who are returning is facilitated to the respective destinations that they want to go to. All are currently, as of now, all our officials of the mission and their family members are safe. The embassy has been providing all possible support under such difficult circumstances to the Indian nationals there, under very clear direction, leadership, and review by the Honorable Prime Minister and External Affairs Minister himself. I would stop here, and if there are questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Thank you, sir. And open the floor for questions. Please introduce yourself and the organization. I'll start with Chincha.
Sir, times now. You've given a lot of figures of how many people have come by ship, by Teg, Tarkash is already there, Sumedha. You've spoken of the C-17, and it's really a kind of taking people by plane up to a certain part out of Sudan and all that. Apart from the people in Port Sudan, how many people are left in Sudan? How many Indians are left in Sudan, apart from those who are already in Port Sudan?
Siddhant.